The exact foods on your plate might quietly decide whether you get dementia. And scientists just put a number on it. Italy just hit a milestone it hasn't seen since the Middle Ages. And for once, all Americans now finally agree on one centuries old political debate. This is Chat Council, and here are 7 good news stories from this week you didn't hear enough about. Let's get into it. What you put on your plate might quietly decide whether you get dementia, and a big new study finally put a number on it. Researchers at Sweden's Karolinska Institute followed nearly 1900 older adults for up to 15 years, including people who already had early warning signs of Alzheimer's in their blood. The result? The people eating anti-inflammatory diet had up to a 30% lower risk of developing dementia, even the high-risk group. So, what is the diet exactly? It's basically Mediterranean style. Load up on your leafy greens, berries, olive oils, nuts, beans, whole grains, and fatty fish like salmon and sardines. And go easy on the usual suspects: processed meats, fried food, sugary drinks, and white bread. One honest catch: this shows a strong link, but diet alone won't necessarily guarantee it. Here's the empowering part: your brain's future isn't only genetics and luck, much of it is sitting right there on your fork 3 times a day. She was one of the fastest young runners in America training for the Olympics. Then she broke her foot and it changed her entire life. Her name is Sister Stephanie Baliga. In college, she was the 6th fastest freshman runner in the whole country, training 5 hours a day, chasing a pro career. Then a fractured foot pinched her. All that sudden quiet led her to prayer and eventually to becoming a nun in Chicago. But she never stopped running, she just changed what she was running for. For 15 years, she has led a marathon team raising money for a missions food pantry, one that now feeds around 800 people every single week. The total raised so far? Over $2.6 million. She even ran a full marathon on a treadmill in the church basement during the pandemic, and it set a Guinness World Record doing it. Same legs, same fire, completely different finish line, and thousands of families eat because of it. Isn't that amazing? For the first time since the age of knights and castles, Italy has more forests than farmland, but the reason why is bittersweet. New data shows Italy's forests now cover more than a third of the entire country, over 100,000 square kilometers. That's more land than all its farmland combined. The last time the balance dipped this way, roughly 1,000 years ago, the Middle Ages. Italy's tree cover has nearly doubled since 1970, and these forests quietly do enormous work, storing carbon, filtering water and air, holding the soil in place. But here's the twist: this isn't mostly people planting trees, it's people leaving. As older farmers in the mountains retire with no one to take over, the fields go quiet and the forest simply walks back in. So it's a genuine win for nature and at the same time a story about emptying villages. Sometimes progress and loss grow from the exact same soil. Here's something that quietly makes life better for hundreds of millions of people, and nobody throws a party for it. Europe's air is getting cleaner, fast. The EU's atmosphere monitoring services just crushed the numbers. Two of the nastiest pollutants, sulfur oxides and nitrogen oxides, have been dropping about 3 to 5% every year across Europe for the past decade. The biggest cleanups came from industry and traffic. Since 2015, industrial sulfur pollution alone is down 59%. And transport, usually the stubborn one, is finally turning the corner too, largely thanks to electric cars. Why does this matter? Because dirty air isn't abstract. It's asthma attacks, heart problems, kids and grandparents ending up in the hospital. Cleaner air means fewer of all of that. It's not perfect. heat waves and wildfires still spike pollution on bad days. But the direction is clear. Decades of boring, unglamorous policies are literally letting a whole continent breathe easier. Since 2010, 800 million people flipped the switch and had electricity for the very first time. That's more than twice the population of the United States. A major report from the world's top energy agencies just laid it out. Today, about 92% of humanity has access to electricity, up from 87% in 2010. Think about what that unlocks: light to study after dark, a fridge to keep medicine cold, a phone to run a small business. Basic things a lot of us never think about. Some of the biggest wins were in India and Bangladesh, which went from massive gaps to nearly everyone connected. But real talk, progress is slowing and it's uneven. Around 650 million people still have no power at all, and most of them are now in sub Saharan Africa. So, this is a genuine will worth celebrating, and an unfinished one. Hundreds of millions are still waiting for their light to come on. In a time when it feels like Americans can't agree on anything, a huge new survey found one thing most of them actually do. Pew Research asked more than 10,000 US adults about the country's growing racial and ethnic diversity. Three quarters, 75% said it's a good thing for the country. And this wasn't just one side of the aisle. 86% of the Democrats and 66% of the Republicans agreed on that. Majorities across every racial and ethnic group felt the same way. Now, they don't agree on everything. Asked specifically about diversity's impact on the culture, and the parties split up much harder, and overall enthusiasm has cooled a little since 2019. But step back for a second. In an era of endless doom scrolling about how divided everyone is, a big, boring, bipartisan majority just quietly said, yeah, a country of many backgrounds is a good thing. That kind of agreement never trends, but it's real, and honestly, that's kind of nice. Imagine being scared to walk into a doctor's office. New Jersey just passed a law so that a whole lot of people don't have to be. Here's what it does plainly: it makes it a crime to harass, threaten, harm, or physically block someone from getting healthcare, specifically reproductive care and gender affirming care. So, whether you're the patient walking in, the doctor providing it, or a volunteer holding the door, the law now has your back. No being screamed at, no being blocked on the sidewalk, no being followed. And it goes further. It protects providers from being dragged into other states that have criminalized this kind of care. The core idea is simple, and honestly, it shouldn't be radical. If treatment is legal, you should be able to access it with safety, with dignity, without running a gauntlet to get through the front door. It took nearly 2 years and a real fight to pass, but New Jersey just planted a flag. Care should come with protection, not fear. And those were 7 reasons the world got a little brighter this week. If this earned even a small smile or a spark of hope, hit subscribe. We round up the good stuff every single week. And for making it all the way to the end, here's your reward: today's cute picture. See you next week.